All right, hello everybody. Thank you for your patience. I am trying a new setup this time around, and basically, it is one in which I stream from my big 27-inch Mac. It's not top of the line, but it's a little better than my 2011 MacBook Pro. I'm currently running uh, Magic in a virtual machine via Parallels in Windows 10. So, giving that a go. Trying out some new layouts, as well as some new music plugins and some more. Every day there'll be a new little feature added. One thing I want to add is the Twitch chat because I think that's a really important aspect of streaming that should be archived and is a little bit easier to follow if for people who are viewing back. Please let me know if there are any issues on your end. I am trying really hard to stream at the best possible quality that I can, but without tinkering with. I'm trying to stream in 1080p, but apparently my frames per second may not be the best. So I'm really trying to figure that out and how to get that going. But so yes, please let me know of any ideas you may have for the stream. I want to add some cool subscriber things, some maybe some additional information streams and stuff. The on-screen list will probably become basically a posted after the fact. Means that lists will change and stuff. There's basically going to be like less of a reason to put the list on stream, as well as because you'll get to see the list as I'm like sideboarding and whatever. They'll be easier. It's easier to get that information. So I think the stream chat is better to put on the like, so for example, where the list is right now will probably be where the stream chat will be. This is a pre-made layout I found online that I'm just trying out, and eventually I'm just going to make my own. But I thought it would be good enough for Moto, being that like there's a Moto has some interesting constraints. I found this really rad Space Cat one that I wanted to try that fits on top, but unfortunately it covers up too much of the area, like the opponent's life total and stuff like that. So, but I've got the Twitch dashboard up, and basically why you came here. Well, we're gonna try some Bloodbraid Elf in Ponza. So I have been trying to figure it out. I don't know if I have any ideas that are better than anybody else's, but for this stream, I decided I would take two prominent players that I like. Ryan Shaner, who has been pretty much at the cutting edge of like. He was playing in freeform leagues the freeform room before as soon as the banning was announced and all that. He has his own theories on the deck, as well as Adam Wallace, who's a player I really like and a player whose lists I look at whenever I consider my own Ponza list. Like the list I currently play is closer to his list than anybody else's. And then my own experience with the deck, and so basically instead of trying to initially the problem is that when you add Bloodbraid Elf in to a deck like Ponza, you're playing a 3-mana 3/2 with haste that gives you either you're going to be able to give your opponent, like you're going to get three options. You're either going to ramp, you're going to get another threat, or you're going to get another disruption spell. And the thing is, I think you want to create a shell in which that, like, all three of those options are good for you. So my initial thought was to take out something like Acid Moss, and then maybe another couple like 4-drop slots, and just slot Bloodbraid Elf in, because it's a very good card. And then if it gives you a mana, that means that you get to play something a little bit bigger, like a Stormbreath Dragon, or even like an Inferno Titan, if that's still good in this meta. There's also the idea that it creates another threat, so you get a little bit more resilience against those the attrition decks and the control decks, or it gets a piece of disruption, which is still bad, which can be bad for your opponent, you know, in different time, in different times. So, but that's my initial thought. But these other lists, I think I'm just going to try Adam and Ryan's list take on it. It runs, let's just build it real quick. Let's just edit my current version of Ponza to make room for these changes. And Spiker84 says, are you going to always have your cam take up so much damn space? Probably not. This is just the layout that I found, so it has been noted that it is too much space. So I am kind of excited that I'm operating this like virtual machine. Basically, I have the ability to instead of Moto is really weird with OBS in that you have to display cap basically to make it work. So it is not as elegant. So with window capture in Windows 10, you get a little bit better of a quality. So we are going to add one birds. And one criticism of this current version, if this actually is the current version that is the best for the metagame or whatever, is that it is much more expensive. Being that you play 4 hierarchs and 4 goyfs. And that's a reasonable criticism. My responses to that is like I totally understand where you're coming from. If that's an issue that you're running into, I only own 2 modern decks, Ponza and Affinity, and I play. Affinity is my more competitive option when I'm making those decisions. So that being said, I am cost conscious is something that like I'm also worried about too. And so I definitely understand. Let me just finish up this deck list. So we're doing 4 goyf. I have it open up here. So 4 tracker, 4 hierarch, 3 finks. Let's move these to the main deck. Move to deck. Tireless tracker, 1 Piet and Kieran, okay. 2 Chandra, 3 Lightning Bolt, 4 Stone Rain, 1 Primal Command, 4 Blood Moon. Now, I am adding 1 Cinderglade. I have always been against this card, at least in the versions with 4 Elf and 4 Sprawl. But I'm willing to give it a shot in this new version. So 2, 4, 6, 7 forests. And let's just go with what the list. Oh, did I forget a card on this list? 8 lands, 12 lands. Yep. So this the list on screen is not correct. It's short some fetch lands. So. But we're playing 10 fetch lands, basically. 4 and 2. And 1 mountain, 7 forest, so 22 land. 22 land, is that correct? Maybe 9. Let's see, up over to Facebook. 4, 8, 11, 12, 13, 21. So maybe I'm playing one too many forest. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Huh, weird. I don't know how I'm getting this wrong. 1 Cinderglade, 7 Forest, 2 Misties, 1 Mountain, 3 Stomping Ground, 4 Windswept Heath, 4 Wooded Fields. That's 11, 12, 14. It actually has 22 lands. I'm just bad at counting. Alright. So, Hazoret's out. I'm adding... And then I made some edits to their sideboard. Because there's just a lot of non-bows. And I don't particularly care for those. So, like playing Relic in a deck with Goyf, so that it shrinks your Goyfs. I don't know. Like, I can see it being relevant in some situations, but I don't know, making your Goyfs, which are pretty solid creatures against some of the more mid-range decks, vulnerable to Lightning Bolt and Culligan's Command or whatever. I don't know. I don't really like that. As well, the Trinispheres. We're going to turn to Trinisphere much less often in this deck, so I'd rather just play cards that are just a little bit more, a little bit better throughout the course of the game. So I'm moving to Cage as opposed to Relic. Dismember seems really solid if you want to kill all the Delve threats, and it seems like something that's pretty good to cascade into. So take out the Inferno Titans, and only 1 dragon seems a bit not a lot. Seems like not a lot of dragons, but all right. What do you think about the list using more 3 CMC Lane Destruction plus Goblin Dark Dwellers and Bloodbraid Elf? That's actually something I want to talk about. So once I build this version, I'll address some of the part of the reason why I'm playing this deck, this version, is I've literally never played the card Tarmogoyf. But damn it. Okay. Add 4 to deck. Okay. Main deck is done. Sideboard. So, Abrade, Ancient Grudge. We're going to add 1 Ancient Grudge. I don't know how much Lantern is going to be relevant in this new format, but I know that Ancient Grudge is still powerful as a 2-for-1. We do have quite a lot of removal against Affinity with the 4 Bolts, Abrade, 2 Ancient Grudges, and Angers, but as you know, many of us with experience know that the damage-based removal doesn't always get the job done. We want Fracturing Gust, because if Boggles is going to be a thing, and I suspect it will be, as a deck that's both good against Jund and good against removal decks, we want to just have a couple dedicated spots for that. So taking out the Trinispheres makes us a little weak. It's a card that's like decent against Burn. It's decent against like Boggles. It's decent against the combo decks. The problem is just the non-bows with Bloodbraid Elf. I mean, I'm totally open to changing. Like, this is just literally a list for me to learn cards and get to know the deck. Dismember. So I've never cast Goyf before. My theory is that taking the deck in this direction, while Goyf is a good card, undeniably, we have very little control over how big it can get. We are not playing a whole bunch of card types. I mean, creature, land, instant, sorcery, planeswalker, enchantment. We're not playing artifacts, and I mean, we're not playing the tribal stuff. Like, I'm not saying that we have to, but the problem is that, like, the problem I see with Goyf is that you play it, it's very easy for it to be a 1/2 when you play it. And then next turn, hopefully, you know, you can play a stone, like a Stone Rain, because it's assuming that you have a fetch land in the graveyard. So fetch land followed by Stone Rain gives you, you know, 2 card types, and then whatever your opponent is doing, They may have a creature in the graveyard. They may have Cycle the Street Wraith. They may have, I don't know. Like if you're playing against Tron, they can easily have an artifact or a sorcery. Like if they went land, sphere, go land, cycle sphere for ancient stirrings, they can have a sorcery. So we also don't have delve, and we don't play scoos, so we can't like control we can't really control the size of Goyce at all. So and our opponents do have that ability. So it's a much more reliable card. That being said, like it's kind of a house, so it's a pretty solid thing to, as the real LJP JLP says, it's pretty good threat. It's good to Bloodbraid Elf into. So just check in with the chat real quick. Never mind to see you're still deck building. I tried that list for over 25 matches in the GDD package. Just wasn't that great. It is nice to kill a Planeswalker with Molten Rain, but the tax on your mana base hurts. I don't think the tax on your mana base is that bad. It's pretty easy to make red, especially if you're playing the list, especially if you're playing the Arbor Elf Utopia Sprawl. I never really had a whole lot of problems making that all work. So let's see, get a new league going. The problem I find with Goblin Dark Dwellers is that there's not it's like Stone Rain and then Molten Rain, and then after that is Beast Within. And I found that Goblin Dark Dwellers with those few targets just became kind of inconsistent. And I feel like if you're playing Dark Dwellers, you should be playing some form of Jund. Because you just get access to Kolaghan's Command and then Fulminator Mage, and it's just so much more powerful. In addition, like you get to flashback discard spells, you get to flashback cards like Dreadbore and Terminate, stuff like that. It's just a more powerful card, and you're playing cards that you're playing more hits. So that's my initial assessment. I am going to try a list just because I love Dark Dwellers, and like the idea, it's Magical Christmas Land in that deck is pretty gross because turn 2 you blow up a land, turn 3 Bloodbraid Elf, blow up a land, turn 4 Dark Dwellers, blow up a land. That seems pretty gross, but there's also going to be the games where you don't have you don't have anything in the graveyard and you're playing a 5-mana 4/4. Or it's just not right for you to not play cards and stuff. And you can easily go like Accelerant, Blood Moon, Threat, Dark Dwellers, and Dark Dwellers isn't that great. What do I think about a list that's the Dark? Simic Skyswaller asks, should you play Courser with Tarmogoyf? Probably. I know Ryan is doing that, and I think it's fine. I'm kind of testing out a few different theories with this list, but Car says, hello, people. Hello, Carhartt. Let's see. Okay, with Noble Hierarch, I'm going to test a list tomorrow with 2 GGD, 4 BBE, 4 Molten Rains, and 4 Stone Rains. I mean, you still get to flashback Dismember and Anger of the Gods, which are pretty sweet. And then Spiker says he sent me a 4 dragon list to look at later, which is something I'm definitely doing. Fracturing Gust, Carhartt asks, Fracturing Gust against Boggles and or Detention Sphere. No, I don't really bother sideboarding against Detention Sphere. It's just not that great. To bring in a 5-mana spell that answers like a 3-mana 1/1. Spaghetti King says, "Sup, Matt S. George? How are games? They're just starting. Let's just get it going. This seems like it's light on the LD to accommodate the Bloodbraid Elf. I agree. So let's just look at our hand. Finks, Moon, Birds, Chandra. Looks like a pretty decent Ponza hand, so we're going to keep it. The thing that I can see with Tarmogoyf, so the problem with these versions that in theory, is that they have more threats. They play fewer land destruction spells, so you're gonna die more often to the big mana decks, And then your linear plan of land destruction is just not going to be as good. And then with playing 7 dorks as opposed to 10, you can't reliably like turn 3 play something. So the idea of what do I want to do here? Go get a mountain. No, I'll go to a forest. These are all going to be mountains after I play moon. The idea of playing Goyf is better in a deck where your dorks are going to be killed more often because they're creatures, and then you're just not going to draw them as often. So that's all that's all a consideration that you have to make when building this deck. So I don't know, like as in the abstract, I think that the lists that play more land destruction are better Ponza decks, but these lists, they're going to get some games because they're just a pile of, like, depending on how you build it, it's just like a pile of good red-green modern cards, and that's going to get you some wins. The problem is that, like, you're giving up percentage points by, like, not playing a deck with as much synergy or as much, like, raw power. So I don't know where to go with it, to be honest. I mean, you can't play with Bloodbraid Elf. You can't play cards like Bonfire, but you do get better cards. You do get cards like Anger. Like you can get still Anger. You get another shot at playing important spells and threats and stuff. Where like if your opponent counters your first thing, you play Bloodbraid Elf. They get to see what you're playing, so what you get to cascade into. So it could be that they still get to counter your thing, and then they don't care about the 3/2, but sometimes they can. You can punish them in different ways. Okay, so opponent has birds, Finks, Vizier, so they are on the combo deck. Probably not playing Bloodbraid Elf, and probably not playing... we have to get that Vizier off the table, so we'll just sacrifice our Chandra. And instead misclick. So, nope, okay. But, I don't know about these lists. I don't think... My theory is that if you're going this direction, you should... It is just correct to play Jund, I think. Being that Jund is just much stronger now. Being that you have Bloodbraid Elf. Theoretically, this is, we still have to see how the metagame pans out and everything, so... damn it. Alright, so they're going to gain infinite life. We do have Primal Command, though, so... Who knows? We don't have Inferno Titan or Bonfire main deck or a Sweeper to really punish them. We will just well, we already F8 it, so... so that's kind of my initial take on these lists, is that you're just gonna, like, you're gonna be a pile of red-green good cards, but you really should just build, like, I think it's just a better option, because you're not gonna have the access to, like, go hard on the LD plan without severely mucking up your board with cards that are not great in other matchups, like you can with a deck like Jund, where you get to basically slot in Fulminator Mage for free, almost. And then you can actually build like a Jund form of Ponza, I think. So that goes hard on the land destruction. The power of Ponza is the turn 2 plays are more reliable, and then the power, you also get to play fewer lands, being that you're playing a mana engine that gets you more mana with fewer resources. So like the Arbor Elf Utopia Sprawl engine. The strengths of Ponza are kind of threefold. One, it can play fewer lands because it plays this mana engine. Two, it plays a little bit more reliably around the opponent's removal spells because it plays a card like Utopia Sprawl and not just like a whole bunch of dorks. They get pushed and burnt and bolted and stuff. And then, I mean, Utopia Spell is just more resilient, just in general. And then you get a fast mana engine too, where you can get, you can all of a sudden go from 1 mana on turn 1 to 4 mana on turn 2 to 6 mana or even more mana on turn 3. And the games where those happen, like that's pretty much game over for whatever your opponent, for whatever opponent. Okay, so they attack with that. I'll be at 57, and look, I draw another land. We'll concede because next turn they scryed, presumably to a madcap, or not a the deal 2 damage thing. So, so we want to bolt here. The Stone Rain Blood Moon package is, and that's the other strength with like Ponza in situations like this, is that like the Stone Rain Blood Moon package can still be good if you back it up with like sweepers and stuff. And like playing Bonfire for 1 is really solid against a deck like this. So not having access to that is kind of rough, because I don't really, I mean, you want Anger, but like you're like, I'm going to bring it in, and then I'll probably bring in a Braid too. And then I want Cage to stop their top end. But like now it's like, what do you, the boarding is a little bit awkward. I mean, Tireless Tracker is not that great here, so we'll board those out. Neither is Kitchen Finks. And then the problem is that we're down to like the Goyfs. We're down to like a few threats. So the chat says, I feel like Blood Moon is such a house that sometimes you win just from mana. I think that would make the number of LD spells hard to evaluate. Absolutely. I mean, there's a couple other reasons that Ponza is strong. It's because when you're playing like a more traditional version, you get to like, that was the whole kind of theory, is that like we didn't really want to destroy every land, because that's like a losing strategy. There's nothing in there's not really an Armageddon deck that's possible in Ponza or in Modern, but you do get to close out the game when you slow them down with Blood Moon, and then occasionally you'll get to like slow them down or even just stop them completely with the LD stuff. So you basically get to close the game out really quickly, following that stuff up with like Stormbreath Dragon and Inferno Titan. So, but like drawing the game out with like these smaller, more mid-range threats, like Tracker, like P and Karen and Goyf and stuff, makes the games just more difficult. You're just going to lose more to the fact that your deck isn't as powerful as the other players. So let's see. I don't think I want Dismember over Bolt. A Braid is still fine. I think it's better. Finks isn't great here, but like we're pretty low on threats. We'll just go like take out Stone Rains, I guess. I mean, it's some mix of Finks or Stone Rains and Blood Moons. Simic Sky Swallow, why aren't we not scooping here? We have no Inferno Titan and no Sweeper. There's no way we're going to win by decking. Oh, absolutely. I was taking the moment to talk. So I would counter that red-green good cards. Spellweaver says, I would counter that red-green good cards is favored in the GBX matchups. Better against control because there's less dead cards, and most certainly has a better Tron matchup, and we shore up our affinity matchup in the sideboard with Finks in the main. Our burn matchup is fine. Your combo matchups are worse because you don't have access to discard. And then I would say your control matchups are probably about the same. Probably worse marginally because you play more cards that can get through, but like there's a way to address that in the sideboard. Yeah, Goyf, Hierarch, Command, Dragon, Cinderglade, Cage, Foothills will keep. So like this is one of those games where like we're gonna play our Tarmogoyf as like a 1/2, and then so Cinderglade makes its appearance. Oh, unless you control 2 or more basic lands. That is rough. So Wooded Foothills. So Cinderglade is awkward. But it's kind of what we signed up for. So part of the reason why I'm playing this version is I just want to learn more stuff. And we most certainly has a better Tron matchup. I mean, our Tron matchup is like we have to let's play Cinderglade here, and I mean Tron matchup is all about disruption plus threats. So you can't just Blood Moon them and expect to win. You can't just Stone Rain them a couple times and expect to win. You can't just, I don't know, there's just so many things that go wrong in that matchup. Let's see. Goyf or Cage? I think it's probably, I mean, they're like a turn away from doing any Coco or any of that stuff, and like getting a creature on the board to kind of pressure them seems like a little bit better line. Bloodbraid / Boom Bust no longer works, right? It does not work. With the changes they made to split cards about a year ago. Yep. Unfortunately, Boom Bust is now a card with converted mana cost 8. Bolt Your Life says, "Hey Matt, hello Bolt Your Life. Super excited to see you back streaming. Thanks a lot. I am excited to be back." So we just drew Bloodbraid Elf. Don't have 4 mana to cast it, so we're just going to cast Cage. We'll attack for 2 with our Tarmogoyf, and then cast Cage. The Exalted trigger helps us out a little bit because we get to power through their blockers. So that's important there. Cage, alright. Why is Dismember in the board if you're not bringing it in against creature combo decks? I mean, because the bolts are functionally good, and we have this is a deck where that's good against anger. I don't know, maybe just overboarding, maybe too much. Maybe that like I don't know, like that's I didn't think about that when I built the deck, and that may be completely correct. Question: any reason you chose Tracker over Courser? That was just in the list that I cribbed and then edited, so I can definitely see the Tracker Courser split being different, or Tracker being not in the deck at all based on the metagame. So who knows? On your speed point, seems like the real JLP says on your speed point, seems like traditional Ponza would be amazing against Jace decks. I mean, probably. You have access to Molten Rain kills Planeswalkers sometimes. And then, I don't know, your deck's just more linear. So, with Stormbreath Dragon and Bloodbraid Elf, both have haste and protection from white, and you get rewarded for flipping a mana dude. So, with Bloodbraid Elf, if you go a little bit bigger. Okay, so we just drew a Bolt. No third land still. We're going to play... the Finks Cage non-bow is real. Not super relevant here, though. I mean, we could just bolt the Druid to take them off of that possibility to make our Goyf bigger and then attack. I think that's a better line than attacking with... than just playing Finks. We're not at risk of dying or anything. Am I playing Noble over Birds for Exalted mainly? Yeah, I mean, I'm playing a 4-3 split of Noble Birds, so yeah, for Exalted mainly. Hierarch doesn't tap for red mana, which is certainly real. But post-board, I mean, I don't know, the deck is configured in a way that it's not a huge deal. It's about critical mass, bolts, and Spiker says it's about critical mass, bolts, and dismembers, but the numbers in the board may not be constructed correctly. No, absolutely. Definitely agree with that. So, I knew going in that like the changes that I made to the sideboard literally right before the stream to prevent a lot of the non-bows that I saw were not going to be correct. So totally okay with that. Like I said, I just wanted to try Goyf in a deck that's not Jund. Or a deck that can more easily control how big it is. Especially on turn 2 when you cast it. So, alright, so let's see. We just drew our 4th land, so we are going to Bloodbraid Elf here. Exalted will help us power through that Sphinx should we want to attack with Bloodbraid Elf. Ooh. So here's one of the cool interactions I do like with Goyf, is that it is a better threat if you get to do what I'm about to do, which is flip Bloodbraid Elf, flip Anger. You know, if you go like turn 2 Goyf, turn 3 Anger, that's pretty gross. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Our Tarmogoyf will survive as a 3/4, and they just scoop. So Spellweaver says, oh, hey, Ryan, at Bolt Your Life, Nobles aren't a dead hit with Bloodbraid Elf, birds are. Yeah, I mean, generally I agree. Like, that's definitely like a good, a good assumption, a good assessment of that interaction. So, like, Noble was pretty good there. At least the Exalted was relevant almost all throughout the entire game. So, we're going to go ahead and take out the Sphinx for the Dismember and this other Sphinx for the Dismember so that, like, we could, I mean, bringing in the extra Dismembers allows us to turn 2, or, you know, turn 1, instead of playing a Dork, we can kill, like, fetch, kill their Dork, and then on tap, play a Goyf as a 3/4. So that's a relevant line that is pretty good. I don't think. So this Blood Moon Stone Ring thing is still like up in the air. I mean, that game like the Anger plus a Blood Moon would have meant that they have they have green mana but no other relevant other colored mana. I don't know. Let's just keep it like this. The real JLP says, do we play Kessig Wolfrun in this since we're lower on the top end as BBE, or is BBE Goyf enough? I don't know. Like that's a justification for that is certainly a justification for Wolfrun. Better than a lot of the like traditional lists where you basically like are gonna kill you're just gonna play a threat and it's gonna win you the game hopefully, and it's already huge and whatever. So I can see Wolfrun being better in the monster lists, especially even in this one too. So Hierarch Elf, Bloodbraid Elf, not Arbor Elf, Windswept Heath, Blood Moon, Anger. We'll go ahead and keep this. It's kind of a non-bow between Anger and the Mana Dorks. And then we'll have to like aggressively fetch to get double red. Well, we can open with birds. So we'll go and keep this. Well, Nameless Spiker says birds aren't a dead hit. They pretty much are in this list. All depends on your curve. That's absolutely that's the thing. Is like, the first place I wanted to go with my own lists and my own theory crafting was basically a list that maximizes the 3 modes of Bloodbraid Elf, being ramp, disruption, and threats. So we'll go ahead and play birds, and then we can play Stomping Ground next turn. Just trying to think of a way to fetch Cinderglade to where it doesn't really hurt our mana. So we can Moon here. They're off white mana, but they'll have access to 5 mana next turn. So we want to bolt I mean, if we play the Hierarch, we're kind of playing more into the Anger that we may have to play later, but like the Bolt is going to get us that back a little bit. I don't think I want to fetch quite yet. Or we just play Stomping Ground tapped. Play Hierarch, Bolt the Druid. Wolf Run makes birds less of a dead hit, I think. Nameless Dreamer says, yep, absolutely. I mean, I was always looking for ways to make... I mean, that's one of the things that, like, Ponza has a problem with, right? Is that all these other decks get... play a bunch of dorks, but they also get Court of Calling or Collected Company to make those dorks more relevant in the late game. They also get to play, like, Gavany Township to make those dorks relevant in the late game. And we just don't have access to some of those options. Being that we're cutting off those value engines from ourselves and our opponents. So, Devoted Druid. I mean, that's a problem, because we definitely don't want them to untap with the Devoted Druid. So, but Anger sets us way back. Blood Rune really doesn't do much here. We can kind of hope to, we can Bloodbraid Elf and flip. Fetching doesn't really affect... Fetching doesn't affect our chances of flipping a relevant card. I think... balls. And we can't attack with Hierarch. I don't know. Maybe we... And if they play Vizier... I think we have to Anger here, unfortunately. And this hurts, but it... Devoted Druid is like the most dangerous card, anyway. Is this... Bolt Your Life says, is this the first time abandoning the Arbor Elf and Utopia Sprawl engine? Any temptation to play the traditional mana engine to maximize turn 2 Bloodbraid Elf? Yeah, absolutely. This is the first time I've really... Well, not the first time. I've tried, like, evolution lists that kind of went away from it. And tried other different, more creature-heavy versions. But yeah, this is the first real, like, Ponza without those cards that I've played in a really long time. Okay, so we're out of the woods with the potential combo off. We're going to fetch... So we can sequence our Cinderglade fetching, or we can fetch a forest and then use this Heath to fetch a Cinderglade untapped. So saving us 2 life. Bloodbraid Elf cascades into Dismember. Well, we are going to cast it, targeting Kitchen Finks, making it a little smaller. And it still can trade with Bloodbraid Elf, though, and we'll just wait. No need to attack it and give them more value on their Finks. Spellweaver and Spiker, love the conversation. They're in the way I constructed this. They are as in Birds of Paradise are dead hits with Bloodbraid Elf. In the way I constructed this list and one Adam based his list off of, which is what Matt is playing. With only 2 dead hits in birds. In Bird, Bloodbraid Elf will hit a relevant card 94% plus of the time. So yeah, and Spiker says, yeah, that's why I said that they are dead in this list. Absolutely, and that's kind of what I don't know. Like the ways you can go about Bloodbraid Elf are building a Bloodbraid Elf deck are pretty numerous. So I mean, you can build it in a way where it hits something where like I said, you can manufacture the deck to where like all the hits are live, and then but you have to understand like how you're building your deck. And I think the only real way to do that is the Molten Rain, Stone Rain versions. I think, because you still want that like you still want the LD part of your deck to do its thing, because those are matchups where there are matchups where you're going to get percentage points there. There's also matchups where you're going to lose percentage points there. But like I said, I feel this feels like a red green good stuff deck, and less of a Ponza deck exactly. But time will tell. So let's do a brief Goyf check. If we cast it right now, instant creature, sorcery, land, it would be a 4/5, not bad. Dodges an opponent's dismember should they have one. It blanks any of their Finks. We'll get to play our own Finks, and we just drew a dismember, so we're going to play the Finks and then hold up 1 mana, I mean, in case we need to dismember or whatever. So, Finks, let's see. And we're not going to smash our Bloodbraid Elf into their Finks. So, I mean, we can always, and we have the access. Stormbreath Dragon means that we can just play it and blank their Kitchen Finks, which is nice. They have 1 card in hand, and Plains and a Forest as their relevant lands. That is enough to Coco. They do have green creatures, so they can Chord for something. Drew a Windswept Heath, so we're actually just going to, with Bloodbraid Elf and Finks, we've got the ground pretty well locked up should we need to be a bit more defensive, so we're just going to go over the top with Dragon, try to end the game quickly, being that they still have outs. Their Chord count currently is 6, so now it is still 6 with it. They play a Noble Hierarch, so nothing really super relevant, I think, that interacts with that with Stormbreath Dragon. I mean, they can go get a Sigarda to maybe crack back, but then I can just Monstrous the Dragon eventually. Like, I can just block it until I'm Monstrous, or I also, Dismember. It has, I think Sigarda has Hexproof, both versions. Or maybe it just gives you Hexproof and your humans Hexproof. I can't remember. Drew a Bolt, so we're just... we have Bolt and Dismember, so we've got removal. Just attack with Dragon. Alright, yep, the layout looks good, alright. How's everything sound? Music isn't too loud or distracting. Please let me know in the comments or in the chat. Want to make sure everything looks clean, sounds good. Alright, and now they can start chaining chords, being that they drew a chord. Chorded for an Eternal Witness, and now they're getting back their chord. Real JLP says levels are good. Good friendo. Spiker84 says can't even hear the music. Oh, interesting. Okay. Maybe I'll turn that up just a smidge. Okay. Looks like the music. I don't want the music to compete with my voice. Okay, so they can start building their ground army, but they can't build They can't really do anything about the air. So Stormbreath Dragon has them on a 4-turn clock. And this bolt isn't really going to help with that unless I just happen to go like, well, if I go land, monstrous, that shaves off 2 turns. Is that math correct? I know that they have a cord in hand. I want to conserve my life total. I mean, if I kill their Finks, they can buy it back with an Eternal Witness later. Put my math off. I don't think I do anything here. I think it's fine. No blocks. I'll go 13. Tap. Land. Attack. And drew a land, so I'm 1 land away from monstrosing Stormbreath Dragon, which will put them, depending on how they play it, if I'm monstrous, they can cord in response. If they cord for like an Eternal Witness to like keep that chain going, they'll still take 1 and be at 8. So the monstrous will attack for, so I think I'm still 1 turn away, even if I draw a land and bolt them. They can also core for an eternal, like a Kitchen Finks or whatever, so to gain them some life. But still, I don't think that that's... I don't know, what is Burnt and Forge Tender? Prevents the damage from a red... I can't remember if it's red source or red instant or sorcery. Burrington. Forge Tender. Prevent all damage. A red source of your choice will deal this turn. So they do have some options to push back my clock. So I think I block here. Just the Finks. Trade with one of their dudes, gain me some life. Birds. Okay, that also messes with my clock. Being that it is a flying non-white blocker. Let's see. Do I want to bolt it? 11. They're going to be able to attack me for 2, 4, 6, 8 next turn. That birds. I think I actually have to start getting... I may have to start getting defensive here. Let's see what we draw. A land. So we get to Monstrous Dragon. And then attack. So then let's see if they cord for a Forge Tender. Attack for 7. Put them to 4. Block, okay. Cord, I should have bolted the... Spiker says no reason to cast any removal, just block if you're worried about life. They aren't winning without comboing. Spiker says yes, bolt it. Yep, should have just bolted it. A cage next turn would be nice. Oh, we'll block here, trade some creatures. Right, like 4 minutes. Why are you main phasing monstrous? I don't know, just cause. So let's see. They can cord for a creature to attack me back. Let's tempt them into possibly attacking for lethal. Selected company, okay. That's rough. Edel says, hi everyone. Hello Edel, how are you today? I hope everyone's Valentine's Day was awesome yesterday. Okay, well, cord was probably the worst possible draw for me. They can still cord as well. This is fine, but some stress. Yeah, it's understandable. The world, it gets you down. Alright, so they're going to attack me for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have to kill, I think I'm just going to kill the... I'll kill the Vizier. Well, kill the Vizier, they cord for the combo, they gain infinite life. I have no responses. And then I lose because I cannot dismember. Yep, okay. They've got it. Alright, play another league. Edel says, I joined the GP Lyon on Saturday and it'll be my first. Oh, awesome. I would love to go to a GP in Lyon. That sounds like a really awesome city to go to. As well, those European Magic players, you know how lucky you are, being that you can basically travel, 4 or 5 hours and be in multiple countries and multiple GPs and multiple cities. Spiker says, well, those lines were messy. Yeah, kind of. I agree with you there. I mean, having to anger when I did. Okay, so Forest, Bloodbraid Elf, Kitchen Finks, Tarmogoyf, Stomping Ground, Tireless Tracker, on the draw versus an unknown opponent. I just want to kind of see, how are you dead? What would Hay have corded for? Devoted Druid has Summoning Sickness. He could have devoted, or he could have corded for Viscera Seer, and then Viscera Seer, unless cord gets a green creature only. No, but yeah, you could have. My opponent could have corded for a Viscera Seer, and then with Kitchen Finks and Vizier of Sands on the battlefield with Lightning Bolt on the stack, they just sack. Spellweavers, they just sack the Finks to gain infinite life. Sorry, I looked away for a second. You had a cord in hand. Couldn't you bolt Vizier in response to cord and then dismember the Finks? Yeah, I could have done that, but dismember. I was being attacked for mostly lethal, so I would have had to cord. I would have had to pay 4 life to dismember, putting me at 5, and then I only would have been able to kill two of his attackers total. So that would have made me like take a minimum of. So cord dismember puts me down to 5. I can bolt the Finks and then take the Vizier, and I don't know, I was just dead. So If you die to a creature deck with 2 removal spells in hand, you did something wrong. Big mistake was letting them block with the birds. Yeah. Okay, we'll just keep this hand. I don't know how it's going to work out, but I kind of want to just try it. I mean, our Goyf isn't that good here. Okay, main deck Leyline. Devotion of some kind. Okay. Alright. Draws a Tireless Tracker. No. Would not like to... I would have lived at 1, and then... I don't know. Yeah, I mean, maybe I should have played those next 2 turns out. And so Teeth. We're going to go get... So we probably have some time before we need double red. I mean, I'm not under any pressure. I'd rather just go get it now. Green, Goyf, and pass. Bolt Your Life says I'm playing against Spiker84 says they die if you bolt the birds, EOT, untapping, and monstrous. They don't, though, because they have court outs. Like, that's the thing that you're not accounting for, I don't think, is their court outs. So, oh, it's my turn. All right, so my opponent played Nykthos and Leyline, and that's about it. We're just going to play Blood Moon here. And then maybe they won't be able to play any more spells. And attack them for 1. Spellbeer said, good luck in your next match, Matt. I'm out for a few hours. Post what you think in the Facebook group. Good luck. Thanks, Ryan. I will definitely do that. Biggins 30 says if you bolt the Finks and then in response to him cord dismember the Vizier. Yeah, I could have done that. Then my attack would have been lethal. Yeah. I mean, they could have changed what they hadn't made their cord decision yet, so they could have changed their cord decision to make sure to kill me. I'd have to go back and review the match to find out the exact lines and stuff. I'm playing against Green White Pillow Fort. Bolt Your Life says you kill all their lands. They're playing a prison deck, I think. So we'll play... Well, we could play Tracker here. Or Bloodbraid Elf. We've got a land in hand, so we'll just play Bloodbraid Elf, being that draws us the card right now. And then next turn, we will be able to play Tracker, play a land, crack the clue if we want to, but it doesn't feel like it's going to be necessary. Spiker says, well, you died with a bolt in hand, so playing around all the chords went well. Yeah, yeah. So this is the deck of my dreams. This is the deck I've been brewing in my head for the last probably 4 or 5 months. Is some form of this enchantment kind of stuff, because it is pretty tempting to play all these awesome enchantments that Modern gives you access to. So we have access to 3 green mana, and so we will play undo that, undo this, play Tracker, play our land, get a clue, attack for green, play Finks, and attack. So Goyf still a 1/2, not great. I mean, that's the problem I find with... I'm thinking with Goyf is that, like, against some of these decks where you can't bolt anything really relevant except them, it may not be that great. Well, luckily we have these Fracturing Gusts. That helps out a lot. These bolts aren't going to do a whole lot. Let's see. Abrade, destroy target artifact mode is probably not relevant. I'd rather just have the threats that I have. Biggins 30 says second tracker there was definitely the play. Yeah, I mean, it was the play, but I don't think that, like, at that point it didn't really matter a whole bunch. I don't think they have anything that Cage interacts with. Yeah, the Bolt's probably just better than any of this other stuff. I mean, they're playing Leyline, so I mean, who knows if they're gonna board it out. Yeah, it's a bit. See, Cash 26 says Blood Moon got him. Oh yeah, Blood Moon definitely got them. Okay, so awkward kind of hand, Blood Moon. I mean, this is not a deck where I think we'll need to turn to Blood Moon. The Fracturing Gust is pretty sweet. Getting to GGG might be pretty difficult with this hand, and then there is the non-bow between Blood Moon and Fracturing Gust, especially against a deck like this where both of them seem pretty good. I mean, Fracturing Gust probably just does all the work that you need it to do. And gives you enough turns to either, you know, draw a second Blood Moon or sandbag. Biggins 30 says the Ghostly Prison, so Bolt might be good. They board out Leyline. Yeah, I mean, Bolt might be fine. It's not, I mean, it's not really... In this deck, it's a mix between reach and removal. I think we mulligan this. It's pretty slow. We're on the draw. It's 2 lands. I mean, it's... Yeah, I'll mulligan this. I think we can do better. Alright, well, 4 lands, a Stone Rain, a Blood Moon. We'll go ahead and keep it. Scry, something to the top. Oh, there's a Bloodbraid Elf. We'll go ahead and put that on top. This hand is fine, right? Do they kill you before, like, turn 10? No, I mean, probably not, but... I mean, Finks is not that great, so... Let's see, 8... I mean, maybe they board in Wraths or something, I don't know. You don't need to be fast if you have Fracturing Gust, right? True. Let's see... Forest, okay. Well, I've got their planes. It's the best card, Spiker says. Yeah, and maybe the mulliganing that 7 was incorrect. I don't know, why would you keep... Oh my gosh. Alright, so we'll just Stone Rain them. And... I mean, that's the thing that, like, some of these... Like, when you go lighter on the land destruction, and more on, heavier on being just like a more... like an average mid-range deck, the problem is that you run in... You reduce your ability to punish opponents for making greedy keeps, for mulliganing, and that's just honestly a strength of Ponza, is that you just get to do that. Did I just F6 through my turn? I just F6 through my turn. Ugh. Okay. We will not F6 through our turn. So now we get to fetch Cinderglade. Not really super relevant, being that the Wooded Foothills can get a mountain anyway. But we did draw a Stone Rain, so we're gonna do that because that's just the best darn thing that we could do. Play this Hierarch. Biggins 30 says Blood Moon seems bad against a mono white deck. True. I'm honestly not entirely certain of what they're playing. I've never looked at like Enduring Ideal lists, so I did see Nykthos, so that kind of makes me think that it has some use. But yeah, I definitely agree. If I had better cards to bring in, I definitely would have boarded out the Blood Moons. But I think whatever I do, I mean, it's going to be fine. So, all right. Boy, Your Life says Blood Moon is likely good because of Nykthos and other utility lands. Yeah, I mean, they could also be playing other utility lands. So, being that you're a monocolor deck, you have access to play, like, if you're mono white, you can play Horizon Canopy. And occasionally, like, that's the half of the your mana base that you draw that game, and then you're just under Blood Moon with your, like, Ghost Quarter, Plains, Nykthos, and Horizon Canopy. All right, Sphinx, Stone Rain, Hierarch, Forest, Dumping Ground. That is a keep. All right. Bang, there. But your life says Matt Mendoza taught me that Blood Moon is good against decks like Burn and Infect. Sometimes it isn't intuitive, but shuts off 4 to 8 problematic cards. Yep, that is absolutely the case. All right, so we are up against Tron. We are going to chain Stone Rains. So we can sequence it to where we Stone Rain first, and then play Goyf, and then Stone Rain again, and then attack. Because that is kind of the interesting thing about with the Dorks, you get to steal the play against a deck like Tron, where it's really important to do that because you can, for example, steal the play. You basically get to play a threat, like disrupt, play a threat, and then disrupt some more, as opposed to like having to disrupt and then disrupt and then disrupt and then not like lose because you don't have time to win the game. So like, for example, if they play like a second Tron land here, I can play Goyf possibly, and then they're playing Black Green Tron, so they do have access to Fatal Push, Collective Brutality. Oh, they're gonna Collective Brutality me. This is gonna hurt. I mean, I'll get to play Goyf, I guess. So I don't know why they didn't escalate, because getting one of those Stone Rains out of my hand is pretty important. So let's see, Forest, Stomping Ground. Can't play Cinderglade yet. I have no real need to deal ourselves the 2. Tarmogoyf is a... Where'd their Collective Brutality go? They did cast Collective Brutality though, right? Oh no, they dismembered. Never mind. Derp. LOL. Nice to the main deck dismember. Alright, so my opponent plays Relic as an answer to Goyf. Reasonable line. Let's see, drew another land. I'm going to Stone Rain their power plant. Or we'll Stone Rain the tower. I always feel bad when Tron players are really nice and they tell me good luck and have fun when I know that they are not going to have fun. No matter if they win or lose, I'm pretty sure it's just a slog for them. All right. Tarmogoyf now down to a 0. And that's the other thing about like normal Ponza is that you, with not playing Goyf, you aren't a victim to just opponent's main deck things that answer like main deck graveyard removal or whatever. Just like you lose incidental value, I guess, is basically what I'm trying to say. So I can play Sphinx and bolt them. I can also bolt them and Stone Rain them and play a land and then get to attack with my 3/4 Goyf. I mean, they can't really do anything of great import at 4 mana. So this is a pretty decent time to play a threat. Speed up my clock a little bit. Play Finks. Biggins30 says I like to establish a clock and then start land destruction. Yeah, good luck with that. They play All Is Dust and Oblivion Stone, so it's really just not as reliable as you think. You have to do both, and there's sometimes when they threaten to turn 3 Tron that you just can't. You just can't. Like you just can't do that, or you just lose. So I agree with you generally. I want to establish a threat early. It is part of the reason why I like Tarmogoyf, is that it is a relevant card, a relevant threat at 2 mana. So let's see, we get to Stone Rain. They're well, they have 3 colorless sources, 2 green sources, 2 black sources, and 2 the identical Tron pieces. We'll go with the line of, well, we'll go with Overgrown Tomb first, and then next turn, if nothing changes, we'll go with the Llanowar Wastes. All right. I mean, I'm sure that game plays out very differently if I don't draw, you know, 3 of my 4 Stone Rains. Let's see. So against Tron, I mean, Lightning Bolt is interesting because it's Tarmogoyf makes it like a 4 damage burn spell. Because they're not like, this deck isn't, Tron isn't instant heavy, and they'll probably bring in some sort of, they'll probably bring in Fatal Push and Dismember. I know I want, the Abrades and the Grudges. And I mean, we want the Moons and the Rains and the Primal Commands. The Bolts are probably what comes out. Yeah, we'll bring out the Bolts. Chandra keeps us going. Tireless Tracker is good here because it's a solid threat to play early and gets bigger and draws you more cards. Let's see. Yeah, we'll just do this. Alright, Spiker says, yep. Moon against Burn gains you so much life between not taking damage from your lands and shutting off Charm, Helix. Also, Destructive Revelry, and I mean, that's the weird thing, right? Is that you have Burn. It's like a difference between Burn players is that sometimes they bring in Destructive Revelry, sometimes they don't, and you punish those people who do when they tap out and you just land a Moon. Obviously, the good Burn players won't tap out against you, so which makes it way more nerve-wracking because they just have a bunch more options. So we're on the draw against Tron in a hand of Stone Rain, Blood Moon, Finks, Foothills Heath, PN Kirin. They are the black-green version, so They are slightly less likely to turn 3 Tron. But being that they're on the play, I don't have anything good to play before turn 3, which is way too slow. We're gonna mulligan. All right, so basically take out the Peanut and Karen, and it's the same damn 7, just at a 6. And I still don't think that that's good enough. There is justification to like keep because of the scry here, but with 7 dorks as opposed to I think I go to 5 here. The Joys of Ponza. Okay, well, so Finks, Pia and Karen, Blood Moon, Forest, Noble Hierarch is my 5 with the scry. So I get Blood Moon, turn 2 Blood Moon, assuming that I have a land on, I can put a land on top. Noble Hierarch does not tap for red, so currently I need some help in that department. We're gonna push this Finks to the bottom. We have 2 draw steps. And our opponent opens with Tower Expedition Map. Okay, awesome. So Forest was our draw. No red mana yet. This is one of the downfalls of playing Noble Hierarch. So let's see. How's everything looking? Going okay. Oh joy. All right, so they're gonna turn 3 Tron. We're gonna be able to do nothing about it. We're gonna play our Kitchen Finks and then chuckle to ourselves because we're basically playing minor league baseball against the I don't know, pick a good baseball team. Yeah, okay. So opponent fetches their 3rd Tron piece. Tron. Karn. Sure. Joy. Our draw was Tracker. Awesome. All right. Let's see. I don't think we do anything different. Biker 84 says Valiant attempted a sports reference. Absolutely. How about this sports reference? It's like a mid-major team from a really bad mid-major league playing against a Power 5 conference in the top 10. So there you go. College basketball is more my thing. Finks is medium here. It's a threat that survives all his dust. Doesn't kill them very fast. I mean, we have trackers and goifs for that role. Maybe I'm undervaluing Bolt here. I don't think so. Let's try Bolts just for the reach. They can randomly kill a Karn if they play it in minus. I like to play first. Yes. All right. So. All right. So forest, foothills, stomping grounds are land. Birds, Goif, Tracker, Chandra, Blood Moon. All right. This looks like the hand that we want. There is no real answer to an Oblivion Stone yet. But but Goif and Tracker are... Goif is a hell of a clock, I think, so we'll keep it. I can basically rely on them to put an artifact in the graveyard. I'll have a land in the graveyard with this Foothills. The hand gets a little dicier if they have an answer to if they have like Tron Piece, dismember my birds, or if they have like, it's better if they have Lenore Wastes or Overgrown Tomb into Fatal Push, because then they don't threaten turn 3 Tron. Mine Star, okay. Now here's where we can get a little more varied. We can play Goif and Hierarch now, as opposed to the Moon. They can't make us discard it with Vet Brutality, so and they are 2 turns away from Tron, so we can get the clock going. We also could play Tracker instead of Goif and Hierarch. That actually might be the better line. Let's see, next turn at most we can make. So next turn, Tracker will, Goif will be a 2/3. There's no real way for us to make it bigger. We'll go with Tracker here. Get a clock down. This is like the window that you have to exploit. Alright, cycle their star for green mana? Yeah, green mana. Power plant. Chromatic star, or sphere. Cycle for green. Sphere. Okay. Alright, we drew a fetch land, so we're going to fetch. And then play Blood Moon and Hierarch. And attack for 4. I think we want double green here. Because post Moon, I'll have more. Let's see. And I'd rather ensure our double red plays. Okay. Hierarch. Green, green, red, moon. Attack for 4. Goif Noble was likely a better line since you could have bolted Chandra and Blood Moon on your next turn. Played Chandra and Blood Moon on your next turn. Oh yeah, I missed that. Yeah, that was actually using Chandra's plus ability. Yep. That makes sense. Because then I would have had access to 5 mana next turn. Right? Yeah, 5 mana. Yeah, that's a better line. Alright, black mana. Nothing to do with it. Let's see. So we can attack for 4. And then play a second tracker. Like we can play Chandra and then play a second tracker. And next turn we get to go bananas with the double tracker nonsense. Sacking clues and stuff. Red, red. Red. Chandra plus for 2 mana. Green. Tracker. And then next turn we crack 2 clues, attack for... Crack 2 clues, attack for 10 plus Chandra. Livingstone, yep, does not matter. Oh, look, we just have another 2 clues, that's great. So we do have to guarantee a victory through a dismember. That's the best way to do this. So we have the ability to crack 4 clues. One, two, three, 4. So we have to make sure that we can deal them 8 damage minimum. So what? So 5. Really no way to do that. If we, well, no, so if we plus Chandra, exile, deal them 2, crack 3 clues, this makes both of our trackers 6 power, and if they dismember, then they die. Okay. We're just going to 0 plus to exile. And then attack. Sack a clue. Sack a clue. Yeah, and then, okay, cool. Awesome. Alistoni Karn says, is the BBE unbanning just an excuse to jam more expensive cards in the Ponza shell, or just a chance to blow it up completely? Yes. It's kind of a mix of all that stuff. I mean, it's a way to rethink the Ponza deck. Do you want Bloodbraid off as more of a value card? Do you want it more of the centerpiece of your deck? Do you want Goyf in it? I'm not fully convinced that Goyf is the right choice for this deck, but that's certainly an option you can take. So yeah, I mean, it's a reason to rethink all that stuff. I mean, you don't really need, like, this list just plays the Hierarchs and the Goyfs, but you certainly, you know, as the Ponza archetype illustrates, you know, you can play a bunch of different stuff, and this is more of the pile of red-green good cards deck that plays a little bit better than Blood Moon than some other decks. So I don't know. Yeah, it's a mix of all that stuff. I mean, I'm not, me as a player, as a tournament player, as a serious, what I would say is I use that term loosely, serious Magic player who wants to actually do the best that they possibly can. I don't care how much Ponza costs. I want it to be the best that it possibly can be. And you know, that's my approach to it, whether it plays Goyfs and Hierarchs or not. If they're not, I want the right cards for the deck and not the right cards for a particular budget version or whatever, but I definitely understand that concern. So I'm going to use the restroom. I'll be right back. All right. Yeah, I mean, I definitely, you're not the first person to express a concern about taking one of the cheaper modern decks and making it more expensive. But really, the ideal, like the version I was playing for, that I have been playing, is not the ideal version at all. Because you really should, outside of, like, for example, one little thing that you should be doing if you're truly trying to maximize everything is mixing up your fetch lands. I don't have Verdant Catacombs. I own one Misty Rainforest. But really, if you're going to play 9 or 10 fetches, you should play 4 Wooded Foothills, because those are the mandatory. And then everything else should be green, but it should be maximized to not get hit by Pithing Needle. So you should be playing, 3 Heath, or 2 Catacombs, 2 Misties, 2 Heaths, or some mix of those. I just play what I own. They are original Onslaught ones, though, so because those are just what I grew up with and I love. The original Onslaught fetch lands are some of the more beautiful pieces of Magic cardboard out there. Let's see. Forest, Hierarch, Tarmogoyf, Tracker, Chandra. So, turn 2 3 mana play. We don't have a way to make our Goyf anything more than a 0/1, but we do get to attack with it as a 2/3 turn 2 or turn 3. I don't know. I think this hand is fine. This is kind of what I'm talking about like the problem with Goyf and not being in a deck that has more control over making the card the best that it possibly can be. So we'll just keep it. But your Alastoni Karn, and please let me know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. I'm just pronouncing it phonetically. I love the traditional shell and the monster shell. They have great synergy. Yep, I agree. That's part of the reason why the deck is pretty. I've always liked the deck a lot. But Your Life says, hey Matt, with all the hype about Bloodbraid Elf and modern popularity, you should consider doing a video series with Ponza for ManaDeprived.com. Maybe I am already considering that. I'm definitely on the cusp of doing more content. One of the things I'm going to be introducing within the next week is basically a content questionnaire for all of my viewers and fans, so that you can tell me what you want me to be doing and what would be useful for you. So that's coming out. I wanted to come out today, but I was getting too much stuff set up. I'm streaming from my new 27-inch, newer 27-inch iMac. That's a little bit better than my 2011 MacBook Pro. So I had to set all that stuff up and use OBS for Mac as opposed to PC like I normally do, and then had to figure out the little ways to include like the Spotify stuff and all this other stuff. So I'm kind of learning, as well as I'm running MTGO on a virtual machine. Let's see. Forest. My draw was Stormbreath Dragon, so we're going to play Goyf as a 2/3. Within bolt range, unfortunately, but it's that or we play Hierarch. Let's play Hierarch. Bullet Your Life says, your primers were incredible back when you were on the A team. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, those were definitely the product of years of thinking. A long time of basically the culmination of everything, all my thoughts on the deck and everything. So having not really written a whole bunch about it until those 10,000 or 20,000 words. So, all right, opponent takes Tracker with their Inquisition. All right, Hierarch, and Hierarch was my draw, so I'm going to play Tarmogoyf and then play Hierarch. All right. But yeah, so I am doing more content. I have more plans. I'm going to keep things kind of under my hat at least for a little bit, but know that there are more things coming. All right, so no red mana still. Spiker84 says this hand has no red, and yeah, it had no red, but kind of wanted to see, like the rest of it was pretty good. Alias Tony Karn. Okay, that's an I and not a second L. Ooh, Kolaghan's Command. And probably Storm Breath Dragon, I think. So if they're playing Bloodbraid Elf, they're naturally like well suited to attack Planeswalkers. It's gonna deal. So it makes my Goyf bigger though. Storm Breath Dragon is pretty. I'm definitely not on the defensive this game, so I think I can play neither next turn. If I draw another land, I have to go runner red runner. Send a red source right over, please. I'm just gonna discard Chandra. Oh great, no. Okay, drew Stone Rain, no red, but Tarmogoyf's gonna get in for 6. I mean, it is undeniable that when your opponent is playing a Tarmogoyf deck, that you gain some points from playing your own Tarmogoyfs. But not being able to deal with your opponent's Tarmogoyfs as cleanly as they can deal with yours is kind of a liability. I mean, Ryan is playing a version that plays Dami Raid, and then so with the Exalted trigger, your Goyf becomes bigger than theirs, and then you can fight their Goyf. But that's assuming that nothing chumps your Goyf. So, and then other than that, they would just trade. Alias Tony Karn, I've been looking at Goyf and Noble with Shainer's ideas of GDD and Dami Raid with BBE. It feels bad to need your opponent to buff your Goyf. Yep, I agree. I mean, and look, they have Fatal Push. I mean, we don't have Fatal Push. We don't have any way to cleanly deal with our opponent's threats like they can deal with ours. So the vulnerabilities are real. That's for sure. Mountain. Okay, so 2 black sources, 2 red sources, 3 green sources. I think the most valuable thing right now is just to go after one of their black sources in case they draw Liliana. I think I'll go with black red. Let's see, if I go black red, there is also justification to, at this point in the game, go after their forest, and then if we rip a Blood Moon, then we just play Blood Moon and they are cut off of anything that's red. I mean, that's part of the reason why, I mean, you kind of have to think for your later, you have to think about the future when you play Stone Rain, is that if you're going to have a few more turns, you can absolutely make a quote-unquote suboptimal Stone Rain choice to go after, to like make Blood Moon a better card. At this point, I think it's safer to keep them off of Liliana mana, at least for now. Alright, opponent plays Blood Crypt. Because of course they do. Second Bloodbraid Elf? Oh, they had Liliana. Alright. So I called it correctly. But they had the Blood Crypt. They'll minus here. Not Stone Rain me. I would, little thing that you should do just to gain edges, is always bluff. Like unless your opponent knows your hand, like in this case, my opponent knew my hand, but if your opponent kills one of your dorks, always tap it for mana, just to make your it's just one of those little edges, one of those things that like you should do correctly, you should do if you want to gain those extra percentage points. Same thing with Aether Vial, is just always activate Aether Vial. Force action on your opponent's part. Well, they're going to plus, we're going to discard a Stormbreath Dragon, and then opponent has 3 cards. We're in a pretty bad spot. And opponent plays a Tarmogoyf of their own. That would be funny if we get to go Bloodbraid into our own Tarmogoyf. Or we can just go Stomping Ground, concede. Alright, so we definitely want the Baloths and the Dismembers. If we had relics, we would bring those in. At least in versions without Tarmogoyf, because Relic is a pretty good card. Like Relic does 2 things that they really don't want you to do, and it's draw a card and exile all the graveyard, or like shrink Goyfs, as well as deprive them of mana to delve. It's new metagame, so we're trying new things. Ancient Grudge doesn't come in, Anger doesn't come in. Bolt is fine. Being that it's not a threat, it's a little bit more mediocre against these decks, because really you just want to draw a bunch of threats, and Lightning Bolt is certainly not a card you expect to use to kill a Goyf. So it does kill a few of the smaller threats, as well as being an out to Liliana. Alias Tony Karn says, after jamming Inferno Titan, Stormbreath doesn't feel big enough until you hit Monstrosity, which you do less with a lower curve. Yep, I definitely agree. Let's see. So sometimes we'll board out a Dork. My typical boarding is you board out like 1 or 2 Titans, depending on how many you're going to play. You board out some number of Stone Rains, being that like their discard is going to attack your more linear strategy. So the idea, the hope of like Blood Mooning them and Stone Raining them out of the game is less likely to happen, being that they can pick apart whichever part of the plan they're more worried about. So having no real, I'm going to try something like this. Like I'm going to cut from Stone Rains and Bolts. This deck has fewer ways to reach a Liliana that is, for example, being protected by a Goyf. And then this version just plays less Stone Rain effects and stuff in general. I think we're on the play. I think we Stone Rain more. And that's more correct. Okay, so So Forest, Heath, Forest, Rainforest, Blood Moon, Finks, Bloodbraid Elf. Decent threat against attrition decks. We've got a Blood Moon. We have our mana set up. We're not going to turn 2 anything, unless we just happen to draw a Goyf, but we have our mana set up in case, you know, they start picking apart your hand. Basically, you just don't want to be mana screwed. This deck's curve is a lot lower, so it may be less of a concern. And this may actually be just not a great, with this new configuration, this may actually just be not a great hand. And I could probably do better at 6. We're down a game, so we need to make sure that this is correct. I think I'm going to mulligan. I think I can do a little... Can I do a little bit better? And the thing with like dorks is that it forces them to either choose between discarding or playing a removal spell. And if they choose to discard, that means that sometimes your redundant hands can get there. But if they choose to remove, then that gives them more time to play more options to interact with you. I think I'm going to keep... they'll have tons of time to play around Blood Moon if they see it. I think I'll mulligan. Okay, well, 4 lands. Hierarch, Chandra, we've got double red. And we get a Scry, so we're going to keep Bloodbraid Elf on top. Not amazing, but it's fine, I guess. Let's see, 8. All right. Ooh, okay. So they don't have a... At least they didn't play a removal spell or a Catacomb. So they must be relying on... you know, they expect to turn 2 moons so they can fetch around it. We're just going to play... We're not going to give them all the information of the cards that are in our hands, so we'll attack for 1 before we play our land tapped. Get in there. Take it! Ah! Alright, Stomping Ground. We will not pay 2 life, and we'll pass. Next turn, depending on what they play, we can either play Chandra and plus, and put them kind of on the back foot, or we can play Bloodbraid Elf. Hopefully they don't have anything for our Hierarch. I mean, they probably play some number of Collective Brutality. Yep, there we go. Are they escalating? They are escalating. Nothing to hit, fortunately for us, with their escalation. Tony Khan, your video quality is good. Ryan needs to work on his light. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, and definitely let Ryan know that. I'm sure he would love the feedback. I have 2 desk lamps. I have a nice big IKEA table. Basically, that's my desk. That's the equivalent of like 2 workspaces. And then I have the backlighting of the window and the lamp. I also have a film degree, so I know a little bit about lighting and camera work. Let's see. So my draw was birds, so we're gonna play birds and a land and pass. We're kind of set up well here for Liliana if they play it, and whether they plus or minus, we're okay. If they plus, it's a little bit more intimidating because, well, so if they plus, we can discard the land and then play Bloodbraid Elf, attack, and then, well, then they can plus again and make us discard our Chandra. So, all right, opponent plays Raging Ravine and passes. We are going to slam this Liliana, or this Chandra. They'll probably play, I mean, maybe, like, I think Dreadbore is a pretty good card in this new meta. If you expect people to play a lot of Planeswalkers and stuff, it's a pretty decent target. Hit with Bloodbraid Elf. for these Jund decks. It's part of the reason why I like the idea of playing Jund so much, at least right now, is that you're just like a pile of answers, and then you get a threat that also casts you something else to disrupt your opponent. You can keep the velocity going. All right, Bloodbraid Elf. See into Liliana the Veil. Oof. Okay. So opponent. That's a pretty gross combination. Attacks Chandra down to 2 and makes me sacrifice a creature. Sacrifice this birds. We drew another Windswept Heath. Okay, so Liliana and Bloodbraid Elf. We can play a land, fetch a Cinderglade to make sure that we have the mana to possibly cast Stormbreath Dragon if we flip it. Or even Primal Command? Maybe we actually cast Primal Command. Play Windswept Heath. Yeah, we'll go get our Cinderglade. We're going to plus Chandra to kill the Liliana. And then, well, depending, if we flip like a dragon, we can just play the dragon and then attack Liliana. But assuming the card is not good. Ooh, Kitchen Finks. We have a card to discard. To Liliana. If we want. Finks is like a pretty good, it's a decent threat against them. They have 4 cards though, so we're basically getting to the point where a lot of our we are running out of gas basically. We play Kitchen Finks. It does protect Chandra from Bloodbraid Elf. It doesn't protect it in case they attack. Yeah, we'll go ahead and play it. Alright. I haven't played against... Carface69 says I haven't played against any Jund yet with Bloodbraid Elf. What percentage would you think we're at against them? I don't know. It just depends on their configuration. I mean... And depends on how... It's probably like a 60-40 matchup in our favor, if it's even that good. But they just have a lot of... they have a lot of answers in their arsenal. And they have a lot of tools. Many that we don't have, but we do have some like resilient threats. And... we're definitely not a dog to them. That's for sure. Oh, gross. Opponent plays second Liliana and makes us both discard. Discarding my Bloodbraid Elf. Tripling terminates. And they play Bob. Bloodbraid Elf. They probably should have attacked there. They are down to 0 cards, but they have Raging Ravine and Liliana and Dark Confidant and Bloodbraid Elf. So, we're definitely not in a great spot. Let's see. think we plus to exile. I mean, we're not going to be able to kill... Our Chandra's dead next turn. No matter... Really, no matter what we do. Liliana will make us sacrifice a creature. We'll sacrifice Finks. I drew a Goyf, so that's certainly something. We're definitely on the back foot. Alias Tony Karn says kill Bob. Yeah, maybe that's the correct line. And maybe it's better than a random card off the top plus 2 damage to Liliana. Oh, we'll try that. Then play Goyf. We'll be able to sacrifice Finks to Liliana, block something relevant. And if their draw is blank, they can't really attack, I don't think. So you can minus Lily. Kill Finks. It comes back. Oh, they drew another Dark Confidant. Alright. We'll probably plus Liliana here. On it. Or no, they minus. Okay. Persist trigger. We drew another Goyf. That's nice. So we are going to attack. If we attack Liliana with both of our creatures, it allows them to block. Well, they have to sacrifice both of their creatures to protect it. I think that's what I want to do. Because then I play... If they sacrifice both their creatures, then maybe they'll think they'll be able to minus and kill my Goyf. Don't know I have a second Goyf. They could honestly just let Liliana die too. Alright. Opponent is considering their options, chooses not to block with anything. It's fine. I think that was actually the best option for us. I mean, obviously if they chump with Bob, it makes us... that's definitely a card that we want to get rid of. Alright, Verdant Catacombs was revealed with Dark Confidant. And they play it. Pulse incoming. Oh, yeah, totally. Spiker says Maelstrom Pulse. Yeah, that would be rough. Alright, so... They can animate their Ravine and gang block one of the Goyfs if they want to. I think they are firmly on the back foot. Whether to attack with the Finks or not. Because they could animate Ravine, block Finks, jump a Goyf, and then they're left with Bob and Ravine, and I'm down my Kitchen Finks. I just crash in with everything. Oh no. Okay, activating Ravine, sure. Double block or single block. Yep, they're going for the double block. Okay. All right. We'll take 7. We'll go ahead and hold this land in case we draw a tracker or something. Opponent fetches down to 6. All right, untap upkeep, Verdant Catacomb, Dark Confidant reveals Lightning Bolt, bringing my opponent to 5 life and 3 cards in hand. They play a Bloodstained Mire, so their draws at least were Bloodstained Mire and Lightning Bolt, and then 2 unknown cards. So the 2 cards in their hand, one of them is Lightning Bolt, one of them is unknown. Obstinate Veloth, pretty good draw here. We just smash in with both of our creatures. They are forced to deal with Goyf. Alright, they're probably going to bolt the Finks before damage. That is exactly what they do. Damage is done. Alright, and we'll play this Veloth. Alright, they fetch down to 4. Why pull a land out of your deck when you can? Alright, so I think I like bolts over Stone Rains. Only because things that they fetch, I mean, it could actually be that it's just more correct to bring in the 4 bolts. Because the problem, the thing with the Jund decks is that they can, you know, good Jund players will just proactively fetch around Blood Moon. So your Blood Moon Stone Rain plan, in addition to being hit by discard and made weaker because of discard, is made weaker still because your opponent knows you're playing Blood Moon and knows they will know to be ready for it. So we're going to play like a little bit of removal of our own. We don't want Angers. Blood Moon is still good here, and it's still a relevant card. It might be more incorrect to do that, to like board into the 4, but I'd rather just have like a card that, like, cards that can kill them. So we're gonna go with that. All right, Goyf, Forest, Veloth, Blood Moon, Lightning Bolt. We're gonna mulligan. All right, Bloodbraid Elf, Stomping Ground, Blood Moon, Chandra, Birds, Misty Rainforest. Keep. All right. Bolt on top. We're gonna bottom that just because we want to make sure that we draw lands. We can't rely on this Birds of Paradise to be land, so we need to draw more of them. All right, there we go. Misty Rainforest. We're going to fetch, play a little bit quicker just because the clock is against us. Forest, Birds, pass. All right, opponent fetches down to 19, gets a Stomping Ground, tap, untapped, Bolt incoming. All right, bolts my Birds, untaps, Blooming Marsh. We're going to play the Stomping Ground tapped. We just drew a Stomping Ground, and we'll pass. All right, Swamp from my opponent. Inquisition. All right. Their options are Blood Moon, or Blood Moon, or Blood Moon. Unfortunately, that does not mean that I have multiple copies of those cards. That would be nice though. Kitchen Finks. So we're gonna go ahead and play Misty, fetch a Forest, And then play Kitchen Finks. Slacker619 says that's one big webcam. Yep, yeah, the frame is pretty sizable. So opponent terminates something in a turn. I don't know what they did in a turn. Oh, they terminated my Kitchen Finks. All right, and played a Treetop Village. So we have Chandra in hand and Bloodbraid Elf Stomping Ground. We're gonna play that untapped. Do they have Treetop Village to attack into our Chandra? And I know they play Elf. I think I play Chandra here. I think I attack first though. I mean, the clock is not with me, so maybe it's better to play the Elf. Alright. Chandra Torch plus 2 exile. No. Alright. Chandra's up to 5. Kulgan's command. You guys discard a card. I think I'm going to discard Tarmogoyf. Oh. Should have discarded Elf. I didn't know that was Bloodbraid Elf. Okay. Yep, Chandra, not as great as it used to be. Alright, Forest, great. We are not in a great spot. Bolt. Cascading into Bolt. So we bolted their Bloodbraid Elf. Slacker619 is someone who has never had the chance to play with BBE. How good does it feel? Fine. It feels fine. At least in this shell, it feels fine. I would imagine if I was playing like Jund or something where just everything I revealed was pretty much insane, it'd be better, I think. But I'm not playing like a super card advantage-y deck, so Bloodbraid Elf is better like that. Stormbreath Dragon would be nice. The way my elf doesn't trade with one of their lands. Does Ponza need fine? I mean, does it need it? Need Bloodbraid Elf? Probably not. But it could use it. It's another tool. Oh no, we're gonna get K commanded. Yep. That's rough. Ooh. Okay, we are discarding a card, but they're not killing our Bloodbraid Elf, so I guess that's a plus. Yeah, I mean, being able to like rebuy Bloodbraid Elves with K command seems pretty nuts. This version is way less bomby. Let's see. I think I may have time for one more match. I'm gonna go play some Popper at my LGS at about 6. So it's fun little new thing. All right, opponent Bloodbraid Elf into Maelstrom Pulse. Oh, and then you get to Maelstrom Pulse opponent's Bloodbraid Elves before yours resolves. That's gross. Opponent at 7, me at 20. I still have plenty of time to draw out of this. Like a Stormbreath Dragon or a Bloodbraid Elf. Let's see. Battling elves. All right, yeah, we'll play it. Our elf attacks as a 4-power creature. Don't have a bolt. Yep, or just have a bolt. That's fine. It's all fine. Alright, opponent animates Treetop Village and attacks. Plays their Tarmogoyf. Joy. Stormbreath? Nope. Land. Alright. Well, good games. Alright, got time for one more. If you have any questions, please feel free to let me know via the chat. Please also subscribe. Follow me on Twitter. My streams will all be archived on my YouTube video or YouTube page as well. There are other Ponza videos that are older or whatever. All right. Let's see. We are playing first. On the die roll. Tracker, Stone Rain, Rainforest, Belf, Primal Command, Noble Hierarch. Don't think we can keep this. If they kill our dork, we are pretty SOL. Alright, so we cannot keep this either. Forest, Bolt, Stone Rain, Chandra, Blood Moon, Tarmogoyf. Alright, well, we're going to have to keep this. So, Heath, Stomping Ground, Cinderglade, Pia and Kieran, Cajun Finks. Bloodbright Elf to the top. Fine. Cinderglade, tapped, pass. Polluted Delta, Joy. No. Stomping Ground tapped. End of turn. Opponent attacks their Delta. Soccer 619 says, digging the Cinderglade. Been playing one myself for a while. Yeah, I wouldn't actually advocate it. I think it's probably not worth it most of the time. The only reason I'm trying it is because like this is a completely different shell. I actually really hate Cinderglade in most versions of Ponza because it almost always enters the battlefield tapped, and it's Inquisition. They're gonna Inquisition my Kitchen Finks away. So yeah, I actually really don't like it at all for the most part. But in this version where I'm like trying to hit 6 mana less often and I can play around, like the version plays 22 lands, so it's fine as a one of. But you're also not playing, Arbor Elf and Utopia Sprawl, and if you don't get that engine online, you often just lose. So not having the ability to reliably have a land that always comes into play tapped is not great. So that's why I don't like Raging Ravine. I don't like Cinderglade. I am more open to playing Wolf Run, but the fact that it's a colorless land that so like for example, if you have a 2-land hand that it's like Forest, Kessig, Wolf Run, congratulations, that's a mulligan. Same thing with like Stomping Ground, Wolf Run, or whatever. Also, most of the time, your Wolf Run is a bit as a non-basic mountain. So, yeah, that's. I found that. So Slacker says I found that with 8 Forest, Cinderglade is fine. We're not talking about. That's the thing though, is that we're not talking about. The land being relevant in the first two, like we're talking about the land being relevant in the first 2 turns, and Cinderglade is not relevant in the first 2 turns. So, and I mean it doesn't matter how many forests you play. Like, really, yeah, we're gonna search our library for this mountain. Our opponent Field of Ruins, our land, end of turn, and then Thought Scours himself, end of turn, playing Grixis. We're pretty set up for their Jace play if they decide to make it, with 2 creatures and a bolt in hand. Alright, so we're going to force an attack. We're going to attack first, force them to take action should they want to do that. Fatal Push my Goyf. Awesome, because I'm playing like a big fat creature that can get Fatal Pushed. Pretty sweet. Let's see. So we can Stone Rain, or we can play another Piet and Kieran. The Piet and Kieran is probably more relevant. In addition, they have Field of Ruin up, so they very well could Field of Ruin my Cinderglade, taking me off of double red for future turns. Being that I only play 1 basic mountain, they're also off of Cryptic Command mana right now, and Piet and Kieran makes their Jace still bad next turn. They do Field of Ruin my Cinderglade, depriving me of my second red source, but I played the card in my hand that requires double red. Staring down Island, Mountain, Steam Vents, and Watery Grave with a graveyard full of Snapcaster targets. Culligan's Command, dealing me 2 and making me killing Bloodbraid Elf, making me discard a card. I think, do I want the Reach and Bolt, or do I want the Stone Rain? I don't think Stone Rain is very relevant now. I mean, I can Stone Rain their Island, and then, like, if I go Stone Rain their Island, then next turn draw a Blood Moon or something, then it really hurts their mana base. But like the way this game is shaping out, that like Blood Moon is going to be just good on its own, and I'd rather have the removal for a blocker or something. Discard a card, Stone Rain. All right. So we're going to be able to attack for 4 next turn. Then we have a Tireless Tracker. With Piet and Kieran, one thing I've noticed lately is that decks are just better at killing it in response to you creating the tokens. So you can have the tokens without the body that gives it reach. So I've been a little bit lower on that card as of late, but it's still decent. I like the Tireless Tracker Piet and Kieran package, and I think it's good. I think you always want to play, like, if you play Tracker, I think you want to play like 1 Piet and Kieran at least. That way you can Primal Command into it, should you need that. It gives you a lot of reach against Lantern. As well, the Thopters are relevant when you're trying to race, making a... Alright, so my opponent is K-commanding my Tracker and destroying one of my Thopter tokens. Okay. Slacker619 asks opinions on Hazoret. I think you've said it on Facebook before. I like 1. I think 1 is correct. I think anything more than that is too much. I've tried more than that, and can't recommend it. But I like it as a solid threat depending on your build. If you're more like Inferno Titan and Bonfire and Dragon and Command heavy, then I think it's more of a sideboard threat to come in versus the attrition decks, the decks that are going to make you discard most of your cards or kill your stuff. But I think I tried a version with like 3 of them in it, and it just like your hand gets clogged up with too much stuff. Like you can't. It's not like you're like an aggressive deck that like is kind of blitzy where you just like dump your hand and then your like 4 is your top end curve. Like that's really the place where Hazoret, like 3 or 4 Hazorets shine. But All right, so they know that I have... They do not know about the lightning bolt that is in my hand. So, but against most, like, if you're playing a more, like, 2 dragon, 2 titan, 1 command kind of version, then absolutely, I like playing it quite a lot. All right, opponent Snapcasters. They can easily flashback Culligan command. Are they flashing back lightning bolt? Why would they not flashback Culligan's commands to kill both of my dorks? I don't understand. So yeah, but if you play like a Hazaret in a more like Tireless Tracker, PN Kieran, where you have like 5 or 6 cards that cost more than 4, and then maybe less bonfires, I think that's fine. All right, PN Kieran goes down. Let's see, we're gonna fetch. They have a lightning bolt queued up. I would like to pay the 2 life, so we are going to play Primal Command. Let's see. Let's put target non-creature permanent on top. And search. I mean, we could also shuffle their yard. Actually, it's probably more important to shuffle their yard and search. Just because it forces them to use their bolt now. Yep, they bolt. Sure. We're going to go get Storm Breath. God, they have so many cards. All right, so let's see. Red. Yeah, this is not going to resolve. Cryptic, sure. We'll play the fetch. We won't crack it yet, but we want to be ready to go after them should they get to 3. Opponent plays Field of Ruin. 4 cards in hand. So many cards. So many cards. Wait, undo. Bloodbraid Elf only costs. Alright, we'll cast Kitchen Finks off of Bloodbraid Elf. Cgash26, yo man, I didn't know you streamed. That's awesome. It's Kush, by the way. Hey, what's up? Cryptic countering. What are they countering? Finks? Bloodbraid Elf? Not sure. Okay, counter draw. Let's see if this Bloodbraid Elf attack gets through. It is absolutely not getting through. Nope. No way. Alright. Blood Moon. Okay, well, we'll play Blood Moon. See if that resolves. Soccer619 says currently 2 Titan, 1 Dragon, 1 Command, 2 Bonfire, 3 Tracker, 2 Pia, 2 Baloth. Okay. I like Dragon a lot more. Like I think you play 2 Dragon most of the time. Especially if like opponent Field of Ruins in response to get their black source. Blood Moon resolves. But that's before Jace was unbanned. Yeah, I still like Dragon like more than probably most people. Less than my teammate Michael, but more than most people. But now I think it's more important because the haste is more relevant. At least theoretically, depending on how the meta shakes out. So, alright. I drew a forest. Awesome. This game is awesome. Well, at least they can't cryptic. That's nice. Got a card to discard if they K command me. Soccer says you went to a GP with 3 dragons and made my first day too. Yep, because dragon's a hell of a card. Noble Hierarch. Alright, maybe we'll be able to get in for 1 with a Noble Hierarch. Finish this dumb game out. Bolt. Nope. Of course not. See all these cards that my opponent has. They are playing Jace. As if there was any doubt. So, Stone Rain. We probably want to cut them off of black. Only because they are cut off of Cryptic already. But black gives them the ability, the mana for their hard removal spells. So if we draw a Goyf, it's susceptible to their black spells, but not really their red spells. Stone Rain does resolve. Either they have nothing in there, either they're like stuck on some spells or whatever. Snapcaster Mage, targeting Lightning Bolt. Oh, are you getting aggressive? They're getting aggressive. Snap Bolt, me down to 13. Maybe they have Click in hand. We bolt you. Let's see. Do we want to save the second bolt? I just want to go for it. I just want to get this dumb game over with. Can't Cryptic it. Oh, there you go. All right, cool. All right, so this is a matchup where if I wasn't playing Goyf, I would absolutely play Relic, and I would absolutely bring it in here because it's real good. It draws you cards, which is something those decks don't want you to do, and it exiles their graveyard, which is something that those decks don't want you to do, and it dodges K command. Unlike Cage does none of those things. Cage is a dead draw. Well, Cage just sits there until they're ready to deal with it with K command, and then Cage doesn't provide you any value. It doesn't attack. It doesn't do anything. So that's like the huge difference between Cage and Relic, and why I like Relic so much more. So I still think we don't bring in Dismember. We don't bring in. They're probably not playing any Delve threats. They're probably just all hardcore. Bolts, or they're probably just snaps, and maybe Jace. Maybe Jace is their like win condition. Let's see. I mean, Bolt's like the weakest card, probably. Still decent at getting in damage. I think Threat's better. Yeah, I'll just go down to 1 bolt. I don't want to bring in Dismember. Don't want Grudge, don't want Anger. I mean, Blood Moon and Stone Rain are fine here. They are probably able to fetch around it a little bit less. And then once if they're playing a card like Cryptic Command, it's easier to just incidentally put them off of one of their most important spells. So they aren't playing as much discard too. I mean, they're probably playing Command as like their only discard spells. Everything else is counter or kill. So Forest, Heath, Foothills, Hierarch, Command, Tracker, Blood Moon. Cool. I will keep it. On the draw, we'll get to turn 2. You know, assuming if they don't kill my Hierarch, then I get to turn 2. Bloodbraid Elf was my draw. If they don't kill my Hierarch, I get to turn 2 Moon or Tracker. Overall, Goose 620 says overall, how do you feel about Bloodbraid Elf being Ponza and the new meta? 1 tier 1, 2 potential, or just a fun tier 3 deck that got better? It's probably the latter. Like, I'm trying this version because I've never played Goyf before, and it's like different enough to where I feel like I can teach myself a bunch of things and like make the stream as productive as possible, with learning new things and seeing how cards perform with viewers, and not just in my own experience. So we're gonna play. We're just going to jam Blood Moon here. Because next turn, like if we play Tracker and it resolves, we can get a clue. Yes. Blood Moon. But yeah, I'm like struggling to figure out the right iteration from it, because as I mentioned earlier at the beginning of my stream when I was kind of talking about the deck, you want, so we want to play Bloodbraid Elf right now, and then wait for Tracker, I think. You want to, yeah, we'll play Birds, I guess. Bloodbraid Elf has 3 modes. It's either going to flip Acceleration, it's going to flip Disruption, or it's going to flip a threat. And the best shell, I think, is the shell that is the best at... they are on Cryptic Mana. The best shell is one that maximizes all 3 of those modes. So let's see. If they have Cryptic, then we want to... Maybe we jam Tracker here? So we play a land, we get a clue, definitely. And we can still play the Goyf whether or not Tracker resolves. Well, if we play Elf, and we can also follow it up with Goyf. Regardless of what resolves. So I think I'm going to play Elf here. I think it's the stronger play. So that's kind of what. Oh, all right, that's sweet. But yeah, I mean, it's like a pretty, but it could be just like a solid. Sure. Yeah, they could have logic knotted it. No. It's a pretty solid value card. So, I mean, for that reason alone, it's probably worth it. But I don't know how it'll sink in the deck. I mean, because you kind of want. Oh, I won the match. All right, sweet. I'm still on the fence about everything, really. Like, I'm still just trying to figure it out. Like, I'm playing Tarmogoyf in a deck that often has to play like 1/2 or 0/1 Tarmogoyfs. And then, like, so for example, one of the things that, like, this version, Ryan and Adam have like formulated a version that tries to hit zeros as little as possible, blanks as little as possible. So their only blank is birds. So the thing with a different version, perhaps, though, is that when you play it, it doesn't matter. Like, if it ramps you, great, because you're playing Inferno Titan and or Stormbreath Dragon. If it disrupts them, great, because you're playing, like, that's your game plan. So it's much like Acid Moss. If it plays another threat, great. That means that you're going to be able to kill your opponent a little bit faster. So the figuring that all out, the interplay between those elements, is the thing. Ryan started with like a Bloodbraid Elf and Goblin Dark Rollers version. that played like rains, like 8 rains and stuff. The problem I've always had with Goblin Dark Dwellers is that like while you can you can play a deck with Molten Rain and Stone Rain and Lightning Bolt and not Ancient Grudge, Anger of the Gods and Dismember and even like a Beast Within or something in the 75, while you can play all those, it's always like it's not always guaranteed to be a good card. Sometimes it's just a 5-mana 4/4 because the way that your game is played out, you went like Moon into Chandra, and then your 5-mana threat is Goblin Dark Dwellers, or you just don't have, you're not playing a critical mass of spells to flashback with Goblin Dark Dwellers. In addition, I think that if you play Dark Dwellers and you're not playing K-Command, you have to have a very compelling reason to not play that sort of combination in that sort of shell, because it's just so much value that you're giving up. Because as a Jund deck, you can play Blood Moon and Bloodbraid Elf and some land destruction, but in addition, you get the package of like K-Command my Fulminator Mage back, which is pretty nuts. And maybe there's a version of Jund Ponza that is different enough and has better matchups and enough better matchups that it's just a better, it's instead of playing a worse version of Jund and you're playing a better version of Ponza that is better than a version of Jund for specific reasons, maybe. One of the things that I think is a problem with this deck is that like it might be a stronger pile of 75 cards. This is going to sound weird saying this. It might be a stronger pile of cards. Like it's just red, green, good modern cards and good cards in modern. So you're going to get wins and stuff and value because you're just playing some really good cards. You're not filling your deck with like cards that aren't synergistic with your deck or whatever. The problem is that like there are matchups that like beat you handily because you're not playing hand disruption, or you're not playing counter magic, or like the big mana decks, for example, like Tron and Valakut don't care about your threats unless you're fast enough to kill them. They care about your Blood Moon. They care about your disruption. That being said, Goyf is can be a sizable threat. It's also a variable threat that gets reduced by stuff people are playing in the main deck and sideboard, like relics and stuff. It also limits the cards you can put in your own deck. So, for example, in that situation where I really want to play relic, I can't because I'm playing Goyf. Also, because you're playing Bloodbraid Elf, you can't play Trinsphere. At least you have to accept some form of non-bow. If you're stuck with Cage as your graveyard hate, you can't. It's often a non-bow with Finks, as I discovered in one of the matchups. So there's just a lot of tinkering to do and a lot of thinking that you have to do when considering different versions of this deck with Bloodbraid Elf in it. So, and then all that said, I either think Ponza will change a lot, or it will probably be like I think it will change a little bit and get marginally stronger, or it will change a lot and get weaker at certain things, I think is how it's going to play out. Based on just my theory crafting and stuff. So Michael sent me a textual message. My teammate, his version is basically 4 elf, 2 birds, and 4 sprawl, 4 Bloodbraid, 2 Thrun, 4 dragon, 2 Inferno Titan, 3 bolt, 4 Blood Moon, 4 Molten Rain, 3 Stone Rain, 2 Chandra Torch, 1 Primal Command, 21 lands. Sideboard is 4 Finks, 2 Cage, 3 Ancient Grudge, 3 Anger of the Gods, and 3 Transfers. So, yeah, I mean, that may be the more correct way to go about it. Because, like I said, with a card like Bloodbraid Elf, it can be pretty inconsistent, and sometimes your opponent doesn't care about the 3/2 body, and can just, you know, counter or whatever, and then kill your body and your 3/2 body, and then you did get a 2-for-1, which is great, and what you want to be doing against those decks, but it's like sometimes it's like, okay, well, so you flip birds or whatever, so you want to kind of reward yourself for playing a card that's modal, that is not always one mode. Unlike, you know, Jund, where like K command does basically everything that they want the deck wants to do. It 2-for-1s sometimes. It 2-for-1s against Affinity. It 2-for-1s against Lantern. It discards during instant speed and like can kill a creature during their draw step or whatever. It rebuys one of your threats if you're playing against another attrition deck, and then like rebuy your threat, make you discard a card. Like it's just an amazing card. So, but thank you all for watching. These videos will be archived on my YouTube channel tonight, if not tomorrow. Please hit that crush that subscribe button, follow button, as the kids say, and feel free to send me any feedback on Twitter or via Facebook. I'm very active in the Ponza Facebook group as well. If you're a Ponza player and you're not part of that group, get on that. So, all right, thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.